Hello, my name is Jim Hansen, Hansen. Today I'm going to be talking about client communications. First, to break that out into two parts, first we have the client, then we have the communication. So for those of you that are practicing as a solo practitioner, that assumes the client is in the door. For those of you with a firm, a lot of you will experience your firm already has existing clients, and you will be following in the footsteps of others in their communications in keeping those clients and keeping them happy. The first thing to address would be a possible engagement letter. So if you are a solo practitioner, this may apply to you more than those of you practicing with a firm because you already have the existing clients, and an engagement letter normally is not needed. An engagement letter should state with specificity what it is you are being hired to do. You always want to have a firm understanding between you and the client what it is you are being engaged to perform on behalf of the client. For example, are you being hired to simply provide an advisory opinion on a matter? Are you being hired to complete a commercial transaction? Are you being hired to litigate a matter and file a lawsuit and take it all the way to completion? So the first thing in an engagement letter should be outlining what it is you are going to be doing for the client. That way it is on the up and up from the get-go between you and the client what it is you will be fulfilling on their behalf. Engagement letters exist in many forms and formats. Many lawyers have them at the ready. You can go online and find them as well. Personally, and for the firm I practice at, the engagement letters we use also contain such minutia as what are you going to charge for copying charges. It also lays out that, for instance, I am a partner at my firm, but if I have an engagement letter, my letter says that I am also going to use my staff. An associate may cover something for me, and it lays out that I will most likely not be handling every aspect of the case. That could be due to scheduling conflicts, I may be sick, a court appearance needs to be covered and I'm out of town. That way the client is not confused when they get the bill and they see someone's initials on the bill other than mine. Normally, obviously, a partner and an associate have different billing rates. We also lay that out in the engagement letter. What I am going to be charging per hour, what the associates in our firm charge per hour, and what paralegals possibly charge per hour. It is obviously more cost effective for the client. For instance, if there is something that's needed from the courthouse, retrieving a document, for a paralegal to do that rather than having a partner who possibly is charging $100 to $150 to $200 more, handle that matter. We also lay out billing rates and when we bill. Our firm typically bills on a monthly basis, but there are clients who will want bills quarterly and even semi-annually. So we state that you will receive a bill every 30 days and we expect the bill to be timely paid. So that kind of starts out with the engagement with the client and the letter. Also, the letter and the initial meeting with the client should set out what are the expectations. You never want to overpromise to a client. You should be candid with them and set out the expectations that you see from a legal perspective and from your professional expertise, what you believe is realistically possible. If the facts do not support, for instance, going forward, let's use a negligence lawsuit. If you do not believe your client is going to prevail, do not promise them that you think you're going to win and get a giant jury verdict. The worst thing that can happen in a client relationship is overpromising, and then you have a very unhappy client at the end of the day when you haven't delivered. We always stress to the young lawyers in our firm, it is very key to set expectations realistically with a client. Always be honest, forthright, and tell them the bad news up front. There's nothing worse than getting involved in a case you've overpromised and you can't deliver, and then someone has to come in and clean up the mess because there's very unhappy people. Again, so the initial stage that I would stress is when the client is in the door, make sure the relationship is clear and defined, that they walk out of your office with a clear understanding of what it is you will be doing on their behalf and what they can expect from you in your engagement. Let's get to the next step, which is the actual communication with the client. I'll break it down into 3 areas: phone, written, and email. Let's start with the phone. Personally, and I stress this to all the young lawyers that I deal with in our office, I'm not important enough to screen my calls. Okay, I take every call. It goes right to me. It does not go to my secretary. As a new lawyer, you're not important enough to screen calls. First of all, the client likes hearing from the actual lawyer. A client does not appreciate every time they call in, it goes right to your secretary, or the client gets the "who's calling please," and then they find out somebody tells them you're in a meeting or otherwise tied up. So as it goes to the phone, I always take my calls if I'm available. As I said, the client would rather hear a lawyer and speak to the lawyer direct. That gives them some self-assurance that they actually can communicate with you and talk about whatever it is they're calling for. Also, a rule of thumb is a 24-hour rule. If I cannot take that call, or if I am out and my secretary takes the call, I have a rule, and it's a good point of practice that's been passed on to me: always return the call within 24 hours. Clients get very upset if 2 or 3 days have passed, you haven't returned their call, and they have to call you again. It's even worse and compounded if they call you again and get your secretary, and you haven't returned the call. So I would stress, take the call and return the call within 24 hours. Second, written communication, letters. I try and provide updates to clients if anything meaningful, important has happened, recent developments, whether it's a phone call with the lawyer on the other side, whether a new case has come down that could impact your lawsuit or the transaction you're handling, and anything that could update them on their case. In today's world, a lot of those written communications by letter have been replaced by emails, and we'll get to those in a second. I would just stress, be very careful in what you send in an email. So before we get to that, let's focus some more on the written communications. Always proofread your written letters. For some reason, sloppiness seems to prevail at the young associate level. Always spell check your document. Always proofread your document. There's nothing worse than a partner, if you're in a firm, getting a letter that you've put together for his or her signature, and they have to correct it because you have misspelled names, grammar is incorrect. Pay attention to detail. That'll go a long way. Next, signature. It's a key thing on a letter. For those of you that have heard of Arnold Palmer, he's a golfer, and he took the practice when he was signing autographs that whoever he was signing that autograph for could read his name. We see people come in and they just chicken scratch their name. Well, that looks sloppy, and the client can't tell who in the heck signed the document. So always make your signature legible. Now to email. Email can always confer something that may not come across as you feel it should. I'm always leery about sending emails. People misconstrue emails sometimes. So I would just say, be careful with what you're sending out in an email. And I always remind people to print out the document after you've sent it. It's easy with a written letter because it gets copied and put in the file. A lot of people forget emails and they get put away or get destroyed on a 30-day cycle. Lastly, on client communications, I would tell you to put in place a reminder system. I have a system set up on my computer that tracks my files every 30 days and reminds me to look at them. Other partners in my practice have index cards that reminds them every file 30 days, so the file doesn't sit there for 2-3 months with the client not hearing from you. Put a system in place, make it work for you, and keep the client updated on those files. So I hope that helps with your client communications as a new admittee to the bar, and good luck.